It began with the kind of morning that did not simply arrive, but ambushed without mercy. The alarm screamed at 7:43 a.m., 17 minutes later than Emma Rodriguez had intended. She jolted awake in her studio apartment, the Chicago dawn gray and reluctant through the single window above her makeshift desk. Her father's breathing came steady from the converted corner she had fashioned into his bedroom. A curtain providing the illusion of privacy in the cramped space. Emma's feet hit the cold floor, and she moved through the choreography of mourning with practiced efficiency. Check on Dad. His tremor was worse today, his hand shaking as it rested on the thin blanket. She tucked it gently under the covers and moved to the kitchen, which was really just a counter along one wall. Coffee, laptop. The folding table near the window served as her office. Her dining room, her entire professional world compressed into 3 square feet of particle board. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. She had stayed up until 2 a.m. debugging code for a client project, and exhaustion clung to her thoughts like cobwebs. The coffee was instant because anything else took too long and cost too much. She opened her laptop, squinting at the bright screen, and navigated to her email with fingers that felt thick and clumsy. Her team's stand-up meeting was in 4 minutes. She clicked the video link without reading, without checking, because she had clicked the same link every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months. Muscle memory. Routine. Survival. The camera activated automatically, and Emma's face appeared in the small preview square. Her hair a messy bun, an oversized gray hoodie swallowing her frame. The cluttered apartment visible behind her. She looked up at the main screen and froze. 8 faces stared back at her in perfectly arranged video squares. All men in tailored suits except one woman in a crisp white blouse, her expression sharp and professional. These were not her teammates. This was not the casual stand-up meeting where everyone showed up in pajamas and made jokes about whose cat would interrupt first. Day tea. The head of the grid sat a man whose name she vaguely recognized from tech news headlines she skimmed during lunch breaks. Alexander Grant. His face was angular, composed, with dark hair that fell in careful disorder across his forehead. He wore a charcoal suit jacket over a black shirt, the top button undone, and his office behind him was all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Horror crashed over Emma in a wave. Wrong meeting. Wrong link. She had clicked the wrong goddamn link. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, her voice cracking with mortification. "I thought this was. I'm in the wrong meeting. I'm so sorry." Her finger moved toward the red Leave Meeting button, hovering over it, ready to escape this nightmare and bury herself under her blankets for the rest of the decade. Then Alexander Grant spoke. His voice was low, measured, cutting through her panic with unexpected intensity. "Stay? I was waiting for you." The words made no sense. Emma's finger froze above the button. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Around the grid, the other executives exchanged glances, confusion flickering across their polished faces. A man with graying temples and kind eyes. His name tag read Marcus Thompson, CFO, raised an eyebrow. But something that might have been amusement tugged at his mouth. Alexander did not break eye contact with his camera. He seemed to look directly through the screen, directly at Emma, as though her intrusion was not an accident, but an inevitability he had been anticipating. Emma's throat closed. She could not form words. She could not think. The only sound was the blood rushing in her ears and her father's soft breathing from behind the curtain. "My apologies, everyone," Alexander said, his gaze finally leaving the camera to sweep across the other participants. "We will resume in 5 minutes." Without waiting for response, he clicked a button, and suddenly it was just the two of them. The other executives vanished from the grid. Silence pressed into the digital space between them, heavy and inexplicable that Emma's breath came shallow. What just happened?" Alexander leaned back slightly in his chair, and for the first time, she saw something shift in his expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening. A crack in the executive armor. "You looked absolutely horrified." It was the most honest expression I've seen in months. "That's because I am horrified," Emma managed, her voice still trembling. "I just crashed your meeting. You're Alexander Grant. I've seen your name in articles. This is mortifying." "It's unexpected," he corrected quietly. There's a difference. She stared at him, unable to process the strangeness of this moment. Her logical brain screamed at her to apologize again and leave, to salvage whatever shred of professionalism she could. But something in his voice, something in the way he watched her with those dark, tired eyes, held her frozen. "Why did you say that?" She whispered. "That you were waiting for me?" He was quiet for a long moment, studying her through the screen. "I don't know." It felt true. The honesty in his words unsettled her more than anything else. This was not the language of polished executives and carefully crafted corporate speak. This was raw, unplanned, human. "I should go," Emma said, though she did not move. "I have my actual meeting. The one I was supposed to be in." "Of course." Alexander nodded once, but his eyes remained on her. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then offered it like a gift she was not sure she should give. "Emma Rodriguez." "Emma." He said it carefully, as though testing the weight of it. "I'm Alexander Grant." "I know. Everyone knows." She tried for humor, to break the tension. "Billionaire tech CEO. The articles called you a recluse." His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "They're not wrong." Another silence settled between them, but this one felt different. Less awkward, more curious. Emma became aware of her surroundings again. The mess of her apartment visible in her background. The medical equipment partially visible near her father's curtained area. Shame heated her face. "I really do need to go," she said, quieter now. "I'm sorry for interrupting your meeting." "Don't be." Alexander's voice was soft, almost reluctant. "It was the best part of my morning." Before Emma could respond, before she could make sense of that impossible statement, she clicked leave meeting and the screen went black. She sat in the sudden silence of her apartment, heart still racing, staring at her reflection in the dark laptop screen. What the hell just happened? From behind the curtain, her father stirred. "Emma? You okay, Mija?" She swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. "Yeah, Dad. I'm fine. Just had a weird morning." But as she opened her actual team's stand-up meeting link, joining the familiar faces and casual chaos, Emma could not shake the memory of Alexander Grant's voice. The strange intensity in his eyes. The way he had said her name, as though it mattered, though she mattered. Emma could not focus on her work. The cursor blinked mockingly at her code editor, waiting for input that would not come. Her mind kept circling back to the meeting, to those inexplicable words. "I was waiting for you." Her Slack notifications pinged with increasing aggression. James Park, her supervisor at the contract position, had noticed her distracted state during stand-up. His messages grew more pointed as the morning wore on. "James Park, you seemed off during stand-up. Everything okay?" "James Park. Emma, I need that API documentation by noon. James Park. The client is asking about timeline. Can you provide update?" She responded mechanically, fingers typing while her thoughts remained elsewhere. James had a talent for making every interaction feel like a performance review. He was the kind of manager who took credit for her solutions in team meetings, who questioned her estimates while praising the full-time employees for less work. Another Slack notification, this time from Violet. "Violetchen, lunch? I'm starving, and you've been weird all morning. MOR. Can't." Swamped. Violetchen, liar. What's going on? Emma closed Slack and opened a private browser window. Her hands moved before her brain could intervene, typing into Google, "Alexander Grant CEO." The search results flooded her screen. Business articles, Forbes profiles, tech conference photos from years ago showing a younger Alexander with an easy smile, surrounded by other founders and investors. She clicked through them, absorbing information like she was researching a code problem. Titan Tech. His company. He had founded it 7 years ago with a business partner, building it into one of Chicago's most promising startups. Then, 2 years ago, everything imploded. The articles used words like scandal, betrayal, stolen intellectual property. His business partner and best friend, someone named David Chun, had allegedly stolen proprietary technology and attempted to frame Alexander for ethical violations. Emma scrolled deeper, finding the tabloid coverage. Photos of Alexander leaving courthouse buildings, his face carved from stone, security flanking him. Articles speculating about his broken engagement. A corporate lawyer named Diana Winters who had left him when the scandal hit peak intensity. Though Alexander was eventually cleared of all charges, the damage was done. His reputation shredded, his personal life in ruins, his company nearly destroyed. The recent articles painted him as a recluse who rebuilt Titan Tech from the ashes but never emerged from isolation. No public appearances, no conferences, no interviews. Emma stared at a photo from a tech conference 3 years ago. Alexander stood with a group of other young founders, his arm around a blond man who must have been David Chun. They looked happy, like brothers. The betrayal must have felt like being hollowed out. She felt unexpected sympathy tighten her chest. She understood isolation. She understood what it meant when the people you trusted most walked away. Her phone buzzed. Her father was awake, calling from his bed. Emma closed the laptop and went to him, helping him sit up, steadying his shaking hands as he reached for the water glass. His Parkinson's made mornings hardest. The tremor would sometimes ease as the day progressed. But she never knew which version of her father she would wake to. "You've been staring at that computer all morning," Robert Rodriguez said, his voice raspy with sleep. "Something on your mind?" Emma busied herself with his medication, counting out pills. "Just work stuff, Dad. You're a terrible liar, Mija." He smiled at her. The expression warmed despite the exhaustion etched around his eyes. "Talk to me." She wanted to explain, to tell him about the strange encounter. But how could she? It sounded absurd, even in her own head. Instead, she deflected. "How are you feeling? Did you sleep okay?" Robert let her change the subject, but his knowing look said he would circle back eventually. Emma helped him through his morning routine, then settled back at her desk while he dozed in the recliner she had bought secondhand from Facebook Marketplace. The afternoon blurred past in a haze of half-finished tasks. James sent another message criticizing her response time. Emma ignored it and dove into research she had no business conducting. Evening came gray and cold. Emma heated up meal prep containers, cheap chicken and rice she had batch cooked on Sunday, and sat with her father for dinner. He asked about her day. She gave vague answers. They watched Jeopardy together, his favorite, and she administered his evening medications, checking off the boxes on her tracking chart, at 9:47 p.m. Her laptop chimed with a new email notification. Emma's heart stuttered when she saw the sender, Alexander Grant. The subject line read, "Coffee chat. No agenda." Her hands shook as she clicked it open. "Emma, I apologize for startling you this morning. What I said was impulsive and probably inappropriate. I'd like to explain, if you'll allow it. No obligation. No expectation. If you're willing, I've included a meeting link below. We could talk. Or not. The choice is entirely yours." Alexander below the message was a video call link and a note. "Available any evening this week. Whatever works for your schedule." Emma read it 3 times. The tone was careful, almost formal, but something beneath the words felt vulnerable. Like he was offering something fragile and hoping she would not crush it. Her phone rang. "Violet." Emma answered on the second ring. "Okay, spill," Violet said without preamble. "You've been weird all day? What happened?" Emma exhaled slowly. "You're going to think I'm insane. Try me. I accidentally joined the wrong video meeting this morning. Like, crashed a CEO's executive meeting. In my hoodie, with my disaster apartment in the background." Violet made a strangled sound that might have been laughter or horror. "Oh my God. Emma." "Who?" "Alexander Grant." Silence. Then wait. "The Alexander Grant? Titan Tech Alexander Grant? Billionaire recluse Alexander Grant? That's the one. Holy shit." Violet's voice went up an octave. "What did he do? Please tell me you got it on recording." Emma bit her lip. "He told me to stay. Said he was waiting for me." More silence. Emma could practically hear Violet's brain spinning. "Okay," Violet said slowly. "That's either the weirdest pickup line in history or he's completely lost his mind. Or both. What did you do?" "I panicked and left the meeting." "But Violet." Emma stared at the email on her screen. "He just sent me an email. Wants to have coffee. Like, a video call coffee." "Oh my God." Violet's tone shifted, protective now. "Emma, you need to be careful. I'm looking him up right now." "Okay. Yeah, he's gorgeous in a brooding, mysterious way, but also, this whole thing is bizarre. Guy's got trauma written all over him. And you've got enough on your plate without taking on a billionaire's emotional baggage." "I know," Emma whispered. "I know it's weird, but there was something about the way he looked at me. Like he saw me. Actually saw me." Violet sighed. "Girl, that's either really romantic or really concerning, and I can't tell which. If you do this, I want details. And maybe keep pepper spray nearby." They talked for another 20 minutes. Violet oscillating between concern and curiosity. When they hung up, Emma stared at Alexander's email. She should delete it. Focus on finding a new job, on taking care of her father, on the 100 other pressing concerns in her life. She did not need complications. She definitely did not need whatever this was. But her finger hovered over the reply button, and she thought about the look in his eyes through the screen. The crack in his armor. The honesty in his voice when he said, "I don't know." It felt true. Before she could second-guess herself, Emma clicked reply and typed, "Tomorrow evening, 8 p.m." She hit send before courage failed her. From his bed, her father called out softly, "Emma? You okay, Mija?" She closed the laptop, heart racing. "Yeah, Dad. Everything's fine." But as she helped him settle for the night, Emma knew she had just opened a door she could not close. And somewhere across the city, in a penthouse office she had only seen through a screen, Alexander Grant was reading her response and feeling something he had not felt in 2 years. Hope Point 3 days later. Emma sat at her folding table desk, wearing a simple navy sweater she had changed into and out of 4 times. Her hair was down, brushed until it fell in soft waves past her. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Shoulders. She had even put on lip gloss, which felt absurd for a video call, but her hands needed something to do while she waited. 7:58 p.m. 2 minutes until Alexander joined the call. Emma's stomach churned with anxiety. She had cleaned the visible parts of her apartment, angling her laptop so the camera would not catch her father's medical equipment. The lighting was as good as she could manage with a single desk lamp. This was ridiculous. She should cancel. She should. The video call notification appeared on her screen. Alexander Grant is waiting to join. Emma took a breath and clicked accept. The screen loaded, and there he was. Alexander sat in what must have been his penthouse office, the Chicago skyline glowing through floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. He wore a simple black sweater, his hair slightly disheveled, as though he had run his hands through it repeatedly. His expression was guarded, but his eyes were intent, focused entirely on her. "Hi," Emma said, her voice coming out smaller than intended. "Hi." Alexander's mouth curved into the ghost of a smile. "Thank you for, I'm sorry for," Emma spoke at the same time. They both stopped, laughed awkwardly. The tension broke slightly. "You first," Alexander offered. Emma shook her head. "No, please. You invited me." He nodded, seeming to gather his thoughts. "I wanted to explain what I said during that meeting. It was impulsive and probably inappropriate, and you deserve context." "Okay." Alexander leaned back slightly, and Emma noticed details she had missed before. Faint shadows under his eyes. A tiredness that went deeper than lack of sleep. "You looked absolutely horrified when you realized you were in the wrong meeting. Completely mortified. And it was the most honest expression I had seen in months." Emma frowned. "That's why you told me to stay. Everyone in my life is so calculated now," he said quietly. "Every word measured, every expression managed. After what happened 2 years ago, people either want something from me or they're afraid of me. But you," his eyes met hers through the screen. "You were just genuinely embarrassed. There was no agenda, no performance, just a person having a terrible morning." Despite herself, Emma felt her mouth twitch. "It was a pretty terrible morning." "I've been having terrible mornings for 2 years," Alexander admitted. "Yours looked refreshingly normal." The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. This was not corporate speak. This was not the language of someone trying to impress or manipulate. This was just real. "I Googled you," Emma confessed. "After the meeting. I know about what happened. The scandal, the betrayal." "I'm sorry." Alexander's expression tightened briefly. "Most people are. Sorry, I mean. Though usually it sounds more like pity." "I wasn't pitying you," Emma said carefully. "I was recognizing it. That kind of betrayal. I know what it looks like." Something shifted in Alexander's face. Interest sharpened his gaze. "You do?" She had not intended to share this. But sitting here, looking at this guarded man who was offering her pieces of his own story, Emma found herself talking. "My ex-boyfriend left me 2 years ago, right after my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Things got hard. The medical bills piled up, and suddenly he decided it was too much. Said he didn't sign up for this level of responsibility." "I'm sorry." Alexander's words were quiet but weighted. "Everyone's sorry." Emma echoed his earlier phrase, a sad smile touching her lips. but sorry doesn't pay medical bills or find stable work or stop me from feeling like I'm drowning most days. Silence settled between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who had both been hollowed out by betrayal and were surprised to find someone else who understood. Movement caught Emma's attention. A large German shepherd appeared in Alexander's video frame, sniffing at his hand. Alexander's entire demeanor transformed. The guardedness melted away as he absently scratched behind the dog's ears, his expression softening into something gentle. "That's Zeus," Alexander said, glancing at Emma. "He keeps me company. He's beautiful." Emma leaned closer to her screen. "How long have you had him?" 2 years. Got him right after everything fell apart. He was supposed to be a guard dog, but Alexander's mouth curved into a real smile, transforming his face. "Turns out he's just a very large, very loyal friend." They talked about Zeus for several minutes, his training, his quirks, the way he insisted on sleeping across Alexander's feet at night. It was easier to talk about the dog than their own wounds. Safer, but eventually, the conversation drifted deeper. Alexander asked about Emma's work, and she found herself explaining the precariousness of contract positions, the way James Park undermined her, the constant financial tightrope she walked. He listened with an intensity that made her feel heard, truly heard, for the first time in years. "What about you?" Emma asked. "The articles said you rebuilt Titan Tech from scratch. That must have been exhausting." "Exhausting, isolating, necessary." Alexander's fingers drummed against his desk. "When everything fell apart, I had two choices: give up or prove them wrong. I chose the latter. But I also—" He paused, seeming to weigh his words. "I shut everyone out. Decided it was safer to work alone than risk trusting the wrong person again." "Has it been?" Emma asked softly. "Safer." "Safer, yes. Better." Alexander met her eyes. "No. Success means nothing when you can't trust anyone to want you for yourself. Not what you can provide." Emma thought of her own isolation. The way she had stopped dating, stopped building friendships, stopped doing anything except survive. "I understand that more than you know." Time slipped away as they talked. They discovered unexpected common ground, a shared love of old science fiction movies, a preference for Chicago deep dish pizza despite it being a tourist cliché, debates about whether Python or JavaScript was superior for certain applications. Each topic revealed another layer, another glimpse of the people they were beneath their respective burdens. At one point, Emma realized 2 hours had passed. Her coffee had gone cold. Her father had gone to bed, and she felt lighter than she had in months. "I should let you go," Alexander said eventually, though his tone suggested reluctance. "It's late." "Yeah." Emma did not move to end the call. This was unexpected. Good unexpected. The vulnerability in his question made her chest ache. "Yes," she said honestly. "Good unexpected." They ended the call with mutual, "we should do this again," promises that felt genuine. Emma sat in the quiet of her apartment afterward, staring at her reflection in the dark screen. Across the city, Alexander picked up his phone and called the only person he still trusted completely. "Marcus," he said when his CFO answered. "I think I just made a friend." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "That's good, Alexander. That's really good. Who is she?" "Her name is Emma Rodriguez. And I think she might be the first person in 2 years who sees me as just me." After they hung up, Alexander sat with Zeus at his feet and looked out at the Chicago skyline. Something had shifted tonight. Something fragile but real. And for the first time since his world had collapsed, Alexander felt the possibility of connection that did not come with conditions that in her small apartment. Emma helped her father to the bathroom one last time before bed. "You're smiling," Robert observed, his tremoring hand gripping her arm for balance. "I haven't seen you smile like that in a long time, Mija." Emma met his eyes in the bathroom mirror. "I had a good conversation tonight, Dad. That's all." But as she settled into bed, her phone on the nightstand, Emma knew it was more than that. She had opened a door she thought she had locked forever. And somewhere across the city, a lonely CEO had done the same. Neither of them knew yet what would walk through that door. But for the first time in years, they were both willing to find out. Over the following 3 weeks, virtual coffee chats became the rhythm Emma's life had been missing. They scheduled calls around her contract work and Alexander's meetings, usually late evenings when the world quieted and pretense could be set aside. The conversations ranged from profound to playful. each one peeling back another layer. Alexander admitted he had not been to a restaurant in 2 years. Emma confessed she had not been on a date in 18 months. Small revelations that painted pictures of their isolated existences. Emma noticed changes in Alexander's background. A plant appeared on his desk, vibrant green against the minimalist decor. Zeus's toys were no longer hidden away but scattered visibly, signs of life creeping back into sterile spaces. Once, Gloria appeared briefly in the background, and Emma caught her comment. "Mijo, you're smiling." Alexander's embarrassed expression had been endearing. Alexander noticed Emma's exhaustion deepening. Her father appeared more often in her background, his tremor more pronounced. Medical supplies accumulated on her counter, and James Park's hostility escalated, reassigning her projects and excluding her from meetings. Then came the email that shattered everything. Emma was mid-conversation with Alexander, laughing about a terrible coding joke when the notification appeared. Her face must have changed because Alexander stopped talking immediately. "What's wrong?" She read the subject line twice, hoping she had misunderstood. "Contract termination notice." "I just lost my job," she whispered. Alexander leaned forward, concern etching lines around his eyes. "Emma, let me help. I can make calls. I can." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "I'm not a charity case. This is exactly why I shouldn't have." She stopped herself, but the damage was done. Silence stretched between them, painful and thick. "I wasn't offering charity," Alexander said quietly. "I was offering help. There's a difference." "Is there? When you're a billionaire and I'm barely surviving." Emma's voice cracked. "Everyone will think I'm using you." "Maybe I am using you." "You're not." His frustration was visible now. "But if you won't let anyone help, you'll drown alone." The call ended badly, both of them hurt and angry. Emma stared at her blank screen, tears streaming down her face. Her father called from his bed, but she could not answer. She had just pushed away the only person who had seen her in years. Across the city, Marcus confronted Alexander in his office. "What are you doing? You barely know this woman." "I know enough," Alexander defended, but Marcus's words planted doubt. "Are you helping her, or are you trying to fix yourself through her?" Alexander had no answer. 3 days of silence felt like 3 years. Emma took gig work that barely paid, juggled her father's worsening condition, and checked her phone constantly for messages that never came. Pride kept her from reaching out, but loneliness was louder than pride. Alexander buried himself in work, but Marcus noticed him staring at his phone during meetings. Gloria found him working at 2 a.m., Zeus anxious at his feet. "Mijo, when did you last sleep?" Gloria sat uninvited. "When did you call that girl?" "I can't," Alexander said. "She made it clear she doesn't want my help. She said she doesn't want charity." "That's not the same thing." Gloria's eyes were knowing. "You're afraid. But being afraid and being alone are different choices." That night, Alexander recorded a voice message. He re-recorded it 4 times before sending it at 3 a.m., admitting he had handled things wrong, that he was scared but more scared of not trying. Emma listened to it 3 times, tears streaming, but could not bring herself to respond. Then morning came with crisis. Robert fell hard while Emma made breakfast. The 911 call, the ambulance ride. The fluorescent hospital waiting room where Emma sat alone and shaking. She pulled out her phone without planning to. "I need." She broke down crying. "Which hospital?" Alexander's voice was immediate. "I'm coming." He arrived 40 minutes later, Zeus on a leash with service animal credentials. They sat together in silence, the dog between them, until the doctor emerged with news that Robert was stable. Emma collapsed into Alexander's shoulder, and he held her without words. Because sometimes presence was the only answer that mattered. Alexander drove Emma home at dawn, too exhausted to argue. He saw her studio apartment for the first time, the cramped reality behind the video squares. Medical equipment, makeshift office, financial stress visible in every corner that he did not comment. He simply asked, "What do you need?" Together they cleaned up from the emergency. Alexander made breakfast while Emma showered, crying under the hot water, releasing everything she had held back, over eggs and toast. Zeus eating kibble Alexander had brought, just in case. Emma asked the question that mattered most. "What do you want from this?" "From us." Alexander's answer was simple and devastating. "I want to know you. The real you. Not the video call version. Emma explained her fears about power imbalance, about being seen as opportunistic. Alexander shared his own fear, that anyone close wanted something from him. Never just him, they acknowledged the complications but decided to try anyway. Establishing ground rules. Honesty. No financial help unless Emma explicitly asked. Taking things slowly. Over the following days, Alexander integrated into Emma's routine in small ways. Morning coffee deliveries. Evening walks with Zeus. Researching insurance options without paying for anything himself. Violet met Alexander properly and gave cautious approval. Marcus met Emma via video and was surprised by her directness. At the hospital, Robert asked about that boy. "You look different," her father observed. "Lighter." Emma smiled despite everything. "It's complicated, Dad." "Good things usually are," Robert replied. And Emma realized he was giving her permission to be happy, even when life was hard. When Alexander met her at the hospital one evening with dinner, their knees touched under the cafeteria table. Neither moved away. And Emma understood that sometimes the most profound connections were built not in grand gestures, but in small moments of choosing to stay. Diana Winters reappeared like a ghost from Alexander's past. Her email began professionally, but pivoted quickly to personal. She wanted closure, she claimed. Alexander agreed to coffee without telling Emma, thinking it insignificant. Diana was polished and subtly manipulative. She admitted leaving was a mistake, that they made sense together in ways his new situation could not match. Alexander left angry but shaken. Meanwhile, Emma's job interview collapsed when the hiring manager asked about her connection to Alexander Grant. The implication was clear: she was leveraging relationships, not merit. That evening, both carried fresh wounds. Emma mentioned the interview disaster. Alexander let slip he had seen Diana. "When? Why didn't you tell me?" The fight escalated. Trust. Transparency. Whether their different worlds could coexist. Emma left his penthouse, slamming the door. Zeus whined. Both sat in separate spaces, shaken and heartbroken. 3 days apart felt endless. Emma threw herself into caregiving and job hunting, trying to convince herself she was better off alone. Robert noticed her pain. "Your mother leaving was complicated. This is just two people being scared." Violet staged an intervention. That man showed up at a hospital at 4 a.m. with his dog. Alexander spiraled into work until Gloria and Marcus confronted him. "That girl loves you," Gloria said simply. "You love her. Everything else is just fear." At 8:47 p.m., both picked up their phones. Both recorded vulnerable, honest messages. Both hit send at 8:49 p.m., receiving notifications simultaneously. They agreed to meet at the lakefront the next morning. They met at North Avenue Beach, frost on the sand, Zeus bounding between them. Walking side by side made conversation easier. Emma confessed her fear of abandonment. Alexander admitted his terror of failing someone again. "You can't fail me by being human," Emma said. "Only by not trying." They discussed practical realities and established boundaries. Emma's job hunt remained hers. The relationship would stay private initially. Communication over assumption. Diana jogged past with a friend. Alexander introduced Emma as his girlfriend for the first time. Diana's surprise felt like closing a door on the past. At his penthouse, morning light flooding the space. They finally kissed. Soft, tentative, then deeper. Zeus's tail thumped. "So we're doing this? For real? For real? Complications and all." They settled on the couch, hands linked, choosing each other despite fear. Marcus texted. Emma replied, making him laugh. Their separate worlds began merging into something new. 3 months later, Emma had found a job on her own merits. She maintained her independence, but spent increasing time at Alexander's penthouse. Robert's health stabilized, and he had developed an unexpected friendship with Alexander over old movies and Chicago sports debates. They hosted a dinner party. Emma, Robert, Violet, Marcus with his teenagers, and Gloria. The penthouse filled with laughter and chaos. Everything Alexander's home had never been. Later, on the balcony overlooking the city, Emma produced a key to her apartment. Alexander had one made for his penthouse weeks ago. "Think will always be a story to other people?" Emma asked. "Probably. But we know the truth. We're just two people who showed up." Inside, Zeus waited. Emma's laptop showed an acceptance email for community college. She squeezed Alexander's hand. "Thank you for saying stay. That first day, Thank you for staying. They returned to their tasks, hands linked, building home together. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.